Hello and welcome to our podcast. I'm your host, Larry Liu, and today I'm very happy to be joined by Steve Wong. We have had the pleasure to meet in person last year in Toronto. Now, during the COVID, of course, it's very hard to visit each other, but we still have the option to chat here over distance. So, welcome, Steve, to the podcast.
Thanks.
So let's get right into it. You said you were very interested in discussing UBI as a policy, and you, of course, note that there are a lot of problems with that policy. So could you explicate your thoughts on UBI?
I think UBI is a mistake, but there is I think guaranteed minimum income is very important. But as I told you earlier, I think UBI will be the biggest political idea, football, in the next 50 years. I mean, I'd love to get in on it if I believed in it, but I think in the long run, the correct policy is guaranteed minimum income, which is the negative income tax, is a basic income for the poor, right? But UBI is so simple, it is so universal, and everyone gets money, right? So I can understand why it could be popular. And I think it will likely replace socialism as the next uh, so-called left-wing idea. So you should get in on it. And Andrew Yang certainly is that guy, right? The only reason I like him because he's Asian. I mean, I disagree with him on UBI, but I think guaranteed minimum income is like espoused by both sides, the left and the right, right? Friedrich Hayek, Milton Friedman, right? They advocated it. They argue for it. Libertarians argue for it. Now, I'm not a libertarian, okay? I'm not an animal, okay? But I'm so-called neoliberal. But uh, uh, this is guaranteed minimum income is like the unifier that will bring balance to the force, will bring equilibrium to the galaxy, okay? Because both sides agree, right? So why don't you say something?
Well, so I think that the general minimum income is also a very attractive idea, and um, if you compare it to the status quo, right, which is to have very minimal levels of social welfare provision, where if you're sort of a member of the working class, you're always one step removed from being pushed off the cliff. I think that GMI is certainly better than the status quo. But the case that we as UBI supporters make has to do. I mean, so we cannot beat you on the cost argument. I think there's no
Yeah,
dispute
no way. No
that
way.
the GMI would be a lower burden financially on the state and on
Fraction,
taxpayers.
a tiny fraction. Yeah, a tiny fraction. We're talking about
Uh,
a few million people relative to 180 million
yeah,
people in the
so
United States.
yeah, so I'll concede that point immediately. And I mean, if you want to have a good UBI, I mean, we're talking about 20 to 25% of the national economy that would be consumed by it. So I do understand the cost argument. However, I think it should be noted that the we have a lot of problems in our society, that could best be dealt with through a UBI policy. So first of all, you don't need as much of a bureaucracy because
I
the
like
thing
that.
with
I like that. That's
right.
a part of the right wing argument. Because once you give people who are unemployed or who are poor, who are students, who are apprentices, a basic minimum income. Say I prefer a little higher than 12,000. Say 15 to 17,000, maybe 18 to 20,000 for students, right? Once you do that, people feel good, right? And they will go to school. So it's a anyway. You go on.
Well, but the GMI, I mean, it's very important is that it does phase out over time. So,
Why does it phase out?
well, so because you make a certain amount of income,
Oh yeah,
right?
once you make more income,
Once you make more income, it
you don't get it.
it will be taxed away. I mean, I must assume it's not taxed away one to one. I mean, maybe it's like
No, it's not taxed. For example,
for every labor income $1 that you make, maybe 50%.
Well, no.
tax.
Listen. This is like this. It's very simple. It's a bottom, right? Is a guaranteed, right? So basically, in Canada right now, I think the minimum basic amount that is not taxable is about 12,000 or so, right? So let's move that up, say, to 15,000. And what happens is that anyone who makes less than 15,000, okay, you are topped up to 15,000. So if you make, let's assume you are an apprentice, you are what they call intern, and they pay you a dick all, okay, but you still want it to be an apprentice because one day this apprentice job will give you a great future, okay. Now, but the guy who's apprentice, who's giving you the training, doesn't want to give you all that money. He's training you, right? He's giving you a skill. So what happens is the government will say, hey, oh my God, you're only making 9,000 a year. So what we'll do, we'll give you the difference of 9,000 and 15,000, okay? That's $6,000 will send you. And you keep apprenticing under Steve Wong or Dr. Liu and until you get when you start, you have your own job. You follow? Now, what's wrong with that?
Well, I mean, so I still think that you're going to have certain disincentives to so do better for yourself in order to you could say using the capitalist lingo to pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Give me an example. How GMI
so
would
I mean, but I think in order to make the case, I think we have to analyze the UBI situation where so if I'm, let's say, an apprentice and I would be paid a very low wage, let's say $500 to $600 or so a month, which I mean might not be enough to live on.
it's not enough.
No. But okay, look at this. You've got the $1,000 that comes from the UBI, and then now I make this career transition where, let's say, I graduate or I complete the apprenticeship, and then I become whatever craft I selected, and of course my income goes up by a lot. I mean, we're talking maybe $3,000 or so after taxes, right?
Yeah.
So, and the fact that the UBI doesn't get taxed away, so we're still talking about $1,000 that I get cash on hand. You do get bumped up to over $4,000 net income. Now, I mean, of course, the higher up. Now, it is true. Actually, I give one concession that, of course, the higher up you go with respect to your net income,
let's not get technical here.
Taxes would have to come in, and it would take away, a bigger chunk than.
Okay, wait, you're getting way too technical here. It's very simple. The reason why I brought up the basic amount in Canada is because that's not taxable. I said that before, right? So right now it's around 12,000 and change. Let's assume that we increased the non-taxable amount to 15,000. That's not taxable. That's not taxable. Okay, so if the apprentice makes 9,000 from his trainer, and the government sends him 6,000, none of that is taxable. Now, once he gets his license, instantly, if you look at what plumbers make, instantly over 40,000 in the first year. Okay, 100% hiring from school for plumbers and electricians, almost 100%, and they almost all make 40 to 50,000 in the first year. Okay, so Same thing. Let's assume you're training, like my brother's, one of my brother's plants makes dentures. They do have apprentices. They make good money, but you want to get a master to train you, they're going to pay you an intern's salary, which is, it's not livable. You can't hardly live off of it. You're lucky he's willing to train you, right? So I don't see any difference between GMI and UBI in that respect for the low income, poor, and students. Okay. The problem with UBI is this. This is my biggest problem. It rewards the people who works at Starbucks. It rewards the people who are doing these dead-end jobs. They're wasting their life, and it gives them a procrastination incentive to keep wasting their life. I say, you know what I keep saying, right? Put down that pie, get out of your dead-end town, okay, and quit your dead-end job. That's what I keep telling people, right? Get out of there. But the problem is, if I'm pouring coffee, I'm making 20,000 a year, and then some government gives me another 12,000. I want to keep pouring coffee the next 50 years. Is that good for society? That's my question to you, Larry.
Well, look, Steve. I mean, we had this discussion on Facebook, obviously, and I do not have a problem whatsoever if people are selecting to be baristas, or if they select to become an artist, to become a novelist or whatever. I mean, look at this. I mean, we already. This is an important insight that anthropologists and sociologists would be making, is that, I mean, we already are a highly productive society. We have about 20% of our population, which you could say are really doing the most essential jobs in our society. I mean, the engineers, the doctors, and then of course the lower skilled, the fruit pickers, agricultural laborers, etc. So our whole society, ourselves included, as Facebook commentators, our livelihoods are resting on the shoulders of a small minority of people. Now, I mean, you could say, well, this is not fair. I mean, we don't want to have an 80-20 society, right, where 80% of the people are resting on the shoulders of 20% of people doing the labor.
I wouldn't say that they're resting on their shoulders. I mean, the agriculture would be the most basic profession. Okay, agriculture. Without food, everything else is meaningless. I mean, who needs a computer when
If
you
you're
have
hungry,
food,
yeah.
right? But that does not mean that lawyers, and that goes to your bullshit jobs argument. That does not mean that lawyers and other peripheral jobs are not important. There's something in business administration. There are things that are urgent, and there are things that are important. Okay, what lawyers do and accountants do are very, very important. Okay, what a farmer does is very urgent. Okay, so we need them both. We need them both. And like one example I use on Facebook with you is this. That Gerber always attacks these corporate lawyers, right? But without lawyers, there'll be no contracts in society. Okay, without contracts, people cannot do things for each other, cannot do big projects. I mean, how do you build a railroad or a dam or whatever without huge, complicated contract that affects thousands of people and billions of dollars and many corporations? You can't. You can't. So without lawyers, we basically end up with like the most primitive part of society, digging potatoes, planting beans. Basically, that's all we could do. And then we sell our stuff on the road. That's basically where civilization would be without lawyers, okay? But are they urgent? No, we don't need lawyers now, right? We need food now. So let me impress upon you that the importance that everybody has. For example, you're a teacher, right? To be honest with you, do we really need anthropologists and sociologists and economics teachers? I mean, I don't think so. I think most of what I learned is in the job, right? You need the basic theories. Anthropology, like David Graeber, really, what does he do? All I know is he's selling books. He's making good money, right? So, but they're important nonetheless. Teachers are important. Musicians are important. But back to my original point is that you don't want a governmental manipulation and involvement, an unnecessary involvement into the market. And the UBI is too heavy-handed, right? I think guaranteed minimum income only looks at the people who are in need of a basic income, right? It's a good balance. And one day when the right and the left unite on GMI and the whole world agrees, I think society will move forward. Of course, what I really like about it is you cut down a lot of bureaucracy, and that's what I love about GMI. And UBI too, really. UBI also cuts down bureaucracy.
Well, but it's really about the gradient. I mean, we're talking about much more bureaucracy cuts in the UBI. But I think,
Oh, UBI would cut more, but you're not giving people enough money, really. I mean, you're spending all that money just moving it around. You do need a lot of bureaucracy, right? Because you're taking it from the millionaires and you're giving it back to the
Social Security tax, where the Social Security system, where we have 1 or 2% of the costs goes to its administration, while our privatized healthcare system, which is enormously inefficient. I mean, we are putting in at least 15%.
That's a minor cost, Larry. That's a minor cost. A big
but
cost.
But healthcare is the 15%.
I got it. Let's not talk about healthcare, but that's a minor cost. The big cost is when you take money out of the hands of someone who was going to invest into a factory. Okay, you go and tax them like 70% because you wanted to take that money and give it to 180 million people, and then you give this guy his 12,000 back after you took $1 million from him. Okay, that's going to affect the growth of the economy, the jobs that's created, and the actual taxes that he could have given, which would be much more, right? So that's a big loss.
No, but I mean, of course, you're assuming that there's going to be much less output.
For sure.
And I mean, with a UBI, and I do not take that position. I think that, you could encourage people to do more. I mean, even Mark Zuckerberg notes that, he would be much more inclined to develop his product, to develop Facebook or any social network, if he was given the security of a universal basic income, right, where we wouldn't have to worry about day-to-day survival, and you can sort of branch out and you can experiment.
I wrote about him before. The guy's a liar, okay?
No, but this guy is still
paying interns. You know what he's paying interns? He's paying interns about $100,000 a year, okay? And he wants to cut that much lower by forcing the government to pay for the training and livelihood.
But where does the government take the money to pay the UBI?
He doesn't want to pay $100,000 a year. He wants the government, the taxpayers, to give these people money so they can go train themselves, so he can hire them for $50,000, right?
Yeah, I totally get that. But the question is, who's going to pay for it, right? It's like the state is going to have an added expenditure. It has to tax, from where the money is. I mean, which, Wall Street and Silicon Valley, right? Those are the two profit centers of the national economy. And so those are the ones that would have to carry a greater...
Yeah, but instead of him paying all the entire cost of his interns, again, over $100,000 a year, okay? Instead of him paying that, he's saying, why don't everybody pay that? That's what he's saying. Okay, that guy is a shyster. Okay, he knows economics, right. Especially that partner of his, that guy who's always for UBI. Okay, I forgot his name.
Elon Musk.
No. He has a partner in Facebook that loves UBI.
You mean Mark Zuckerberg?
No, Mark Zuckerberg has a partner.
Is a partner? Oh yeah, Chris Hughes. Chris Hughes.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, Hughes. Yeah.
Yeah, I met him in a conference. Yeah, he's a great guy.
And he's really into that stuff. I mean, but I also
actually, Chris Hughes is a much smaller UBI payment. I mean, he's talking about $500 instead of $1,000.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Okay, let me tell you something. Is the whole thing, the whole UBI idea is purely ideological. I rather pay the poor more than what Yang is offering. I'd rather pay students even more than that. And you only could do that if you stop screwing around with the money, moving it around the United States over and over again, and give it to him, give it back to me, give it to him, give it to him again, give it back to her, and now give it back to me. It's bullshit, okay? It's all
No,
bullshit.
that's the way how the economy works, man. Like
No. What
it's
you
about
do is you
distributing.
simply.
It's about distributing claims to the products of society, and then people are,
I
of
think
course,
it's a reflection. I think it's just way too much meddling, way too much busybodiness. Okay, it just use your corporate computers to figure out who's not making money. Okay, they
Yeah,
have it, IRS.
look, Abe, but let's not get lost in the dollar signs here. I think the big issue is, I mean, we're talking about economic security for the vast majority of people, and I will admit that GMI goes some of the way there, but I'm still concerned that we are not really encouraging entrepreneurship and
No, you do.
people
It's the
trying out.
opposite. That's why I'm arguing. Yeah,
No,
it's the opposite.
that's what the UBI. This is what the
No.
UBI would open up. Now,
It
I
is the
mean,
opposite.
no, I mean, you could argue that, well, okay, a
It
portion of the
rewards
people,
people who are sitting on their butts
right, a
pouring
portion of the
coffee.
people are going to be bongo drummers, are going to be baristas, and I
Nobody
will admit
wants to
that.
play.
But
Nobody wants to play bongo drums. Okay.
that's but I think for a high civilization society, it's like we already have the leisure built into our system, and the way how we do that is through the bullshit jobs, and this is the core area that we on the you could say on the left are trying to attack, and even some people on the right who, as you say, are anti-bureaucracy. We are trying to cut down on the jobs where it's all about putting up the pretenses, where I'm going to have to shuffle around the paperwork. I'm going to have to go to meetings that are totally meaningless. And look, I mean, I mean, we
Here
cannot
you
close
go.
our eyes here.
Larry, just
Those
because
kinds
you're
of
in
BS occupations
academia
are becoming
does
more.
not mean,
Go ahead.
Larry, just because you're in academia does not mean the whole world have bullshit jobs like you have in academia. Okay?
Oh,
In
I don't
in
think
my
our
world, they
is extent
fire
at all.
people at a snap of the finger. They fire people at the snap of the finger. Every penny counts. It's cutthroat. Okay?
No,
Nobody wastes money
that's not
on a
true.
job. Trust me.
That's not true, man.
But
So I know that's what you're arguing on Facebook. I mean, I start
you don't
commenting
have
about
an argument on bullshit jobs. I'm telling you right now. You give me one job that is really bullshit. I bet you can't give me one single job that is truly bullshit. You can't. It's all ideological fodder. It's like it's
no.
a fluff.
Look, so the main occupational category, right, is inside managerial and professional occupations. Now, the thing is that, well, okay, well, what is a manager, right? And there can be a lot of different things that fall in that category. And but we know that these kinds of jobs, the BS jobs, they are proliferating, and they are proliferating because we are telling people, you got to hustle, you got to do 9 to 5 in order to justify your economic existence. And I say that this is a very cruel treatment of people. I think it would be much more honest if we said to them, we're going to give you a UBI, we're going to guarantee your economic survival. I mean, look, nobody's going to live great on $1,000 a month, right? I mean, everybody
You can't
agrees.
live on $1,000 a month.
Everybody
It's
agrees.
impossible.
No, everybody agrees that this is the most basic elementary lifestyle, as you go back with your.
Look. This is my problem. Well, this is my problem.
Right?
Okay.
We want to free people to be able to pursue the lifestyle if that's what they.
No. Listen, Larry. I don't think you have an argument. The problem with David Graeber is that he has very vague and fuzzy definition of what is a bullshit job. It's all over the map. Okay, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, what is that? Is it because the person doesn't think his job is useful, or is it because he does not create economic value? He doesn't clearly say that. Okay,
No, I
let me
mean,
tell you something. Let me tell you, if someone says this job is bullshit, I'll bet you for every person who says that, I can find someone else, or maybe two people who said, no, this job is not bullshit. So who is right? If one guy says it's bullshit, another guy says it's not bullshit, why should you always listen to the guy who says it is bullshit? So the subjective standard, it makes no sense. Now, there's also the objective standard. Does this job make money? The company that survives with this job, okay, they determine what is a bullshit job.
Look, but you're still living in the world of Adam Smith of 18th century
Of course, you know that. I live in the real
competitive
world.
capitalism. No. I mean, you're living in the 18th century, man. Come on, Steve. I mean, we're living in the 21st
I live in the real world. The real
we
world
live
is
in
that
monopoly capitalism. Yeah. We live with, giant corporations in pharmaceutical and healthcare and education, in finance and every single freaking industry. You've got, a few large providers, a few large corporations, and they are providing the population with all of the commodities that they consume. So they have the pricing power to really decide, this is the price of
Does it really matter if they're making money? If they're making money, listen, they're making money, okay? They're making money, and
making money, and they waste it on bullshit jobs. They waste it on hiring bullshit workers.
Got it. Let's assume that this thing is really bullshit. Okay, let's assume that. But if they're making money, why is that your business? Okay, if they're paying taxes and they're paying this guy $100,000 to write reports all day, why is that your business?
No, because you're arguing at the very you're arguing at the very micro level. I mean, look at this. I mean, I look at it from I look at it from a societal well-being perspective.
But the problem is your parameters are vague.
The societal well-being perspective simply asks, are people who are working these BS jobs better off, by continuing
like
working
I said,
jobs,
you can't answer
getting
me.
a
You
UBI.
can't answer me.
And I would say they're much better.
Listen. You have one job. You have one job where 20% of the people say it's bullshit and 80% says not, or 50% says it's bullshit, 50% is not. How do you determine if the job is bullshit?
Yeah, I'll give you.
There's no objective way to say it.
No, I'll concede you on one point that the BS job definition is actually twofold, and that makes it confusing, right, to people.
It's very confusing. It's subjective.
Well, give me 2 minutes to explain it, okay? So, so there's a subjective definition, right, which is the one you mentioned. It's like, I ask you in the survey, do you think your job is bullshit? Okay, and the problem with that subjective definition is, as you said, two people the same occupation disagree. Okay,
usually the guy who's good at his job does not call it bullshit. The guy who's crappy at his job, he calls it bullshit.
Yeah,
The dummy will say, the idiot will say, the lazy bum will say, oh, my job is bullshit. You know why? Because he's shit at it. And everyone's looking down on him in the company, and he says this job is bullshit. A guy who's really good at it, who understands his job, would not call it bullshit.
All right, okay, well, so and then the second part of the definition, and it's sort of only implied in Graeber's writings. Here's a few examples, but which is about social usefulness, and so we're back to your farmer versus the lawyer example.
I go for the GDP. I go for profits.
Well, I mean, of course, it's added if you pay a salary to that worker. I guess that counts as GDP, and of course, if he buys a house and if he buys a computer,
but it's not just him though. It's not just him. Yeah,
but I mean, but you see, there's still productive output, right? Which is most of agricultural manufacturing, and then some of the service sector. I mean,
I got it, but in my world,
if I want to spend money on a Princeton education, right, and I get smarter and I hire.
The problem is
professors.
You and David Rupert.
That's of course the useful part, but of course, not everything is useful. I mean, look, people.
I got it, but let me explain.
for higher education, and it's going to cost this much
Yeah,
money.
I got it. You're saying certain things are sacred. I'm saying none of it is sacred, okay? I'm just saying the only thing that matters is objective profits. Objective profits, jobs that make salaries, okay? Taxes that you pay. That's the only thing I give a damn about. I don't give a damn about whether Dr. Liu or Dr. Gruber
Yeah,
thinks
that's why
this
you're
is useful
neoliberal,
or
man.
not
Of course.
useful.
I mean,
Because we're
so
not
the higher
all
profits. Well, the higher profits. Well, we know exactly where those come from, right? It's by being able to squeeze the productive employees more, right?
but
It's
goes toward the
they become,
GDP, and
become temp workers.
that makes the
They have to
country
work
rich.
longer, harder,
Yeah,
and of course,
I got it. But Larry, think about it.
technology, they become more productive. But then, of course, they
Of
use
course, and let me tell you
profits
something.
to hire the BS workers, and then you say, well, it doesn't matter what the corporation spends the money on, and I say, I would rather have the corporation pay more taxes to fund the UBI, so that they wouldn't have to hire these extra managerial and
They probably
overseas.
will still have to hire them because you're saying they're useless. I don't think they are. I mean, the company hires them. Sometimes what the companies do things that sometimes are risky. They would, for example, create a party person. They think it might help morale, for example. You can call that a bullshit job. They may come up with some brand new title to a job because they test things, but they fire them if that doesn't add to their bottom line. So it's always natural selection happening in a corporation, right? It's not determined by some guru like David Gruber who says by decree that it's a bullshit job. Companies make
Well, no, no.
that's
Well, to be fair, it wasn't Graeber who said it. It was the people that he spoke to, that he interviewed, that sent him testimonies and emails and stuff like that. So it was coming from inside the bureaucracy, and obviously everything anonymized, right?
yeah, but that goes back to the point of view. That goes back to the subjective point of view, what they think is a bullshit job, right? I think. Let me tell you the problem is, okay? Humanity, civilization is about division of labor. Okay, eventually you would know what the hell you're doing. You would
Yeah, but
know
what kind of
your
labor?
job is so specialized. You wouldn't know what the hell you're doing. You're just a tiny, teeny, tiny nut in the entire machinery. Teeny tiny, a small cog. Okay, so most people would not know what they're doing. And what I do is try to understand the entire picture, which is very difficult. Most people think that trading in economics is simple. Everyone talks about it in a coffee shop. It's incredibly profound. It's incredibly difficult. It disappoints me. Many of these economists with their PhDs, they don't like that idiot Piketty. Okay, he doesn't understand it. So what the hell is he doing? Of course, he's an academic. He's not really an industry
No,
economist.
no,
The
no.
point is,
What Piketty is pointing out is that capitalism does what it's supposed to do, which is to accumulate a lot of capital, and then now the problem is that
let's not digress though. I'm just
you're not giving it to the common people. No, I mean it's pertinent. It's absolutely relevant
yeah.
to understand what Piketty is saying, right? Which is that
It's very important. It's
the
very
capitalism does what it's supposed to do, which is to give money to people who own the capital, right?
That's not right. That's you mentioned that as sociology 101. That's completely wrong.
But that's
I know it has this
but that's
Marxist
the
roots.
basis. No, that's the basis
No,
of
that's nonsense. That's
capitalist
nonsense.
economy.
It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Okay, let me. It's funny. I'm going to bring up sociology and anthropology. Okay, like humans before civilization, they do their own thing. They hunt and their world is pretty stable. They catch their own food. They they make their own house. When humans get together, they start to trade and specialize in their jobs. Okay, and and what we have now is so specialized. Nobody knows what the hell they're doing, right? And what I try to do is try to look at the entire picture of all these little cogs, all these little things moving in the machinery. It's not that easy. And so I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people didn't understand their own job because what they do is such a small part of the big picture, right? And that's the problem with management. Management always have these people below them who's constantly questioning their authority and their wisdom because those people at the bottom don't understand what's going on. And the guy at the top does understand. Okay? And they try to explain it to the people lower. After, for example, the management would spend like a $500,000 for McKinsey's report, and they try to tell their employees something, and they revolt. They say, "We're not doing that." We're not going this way. We're not using automation. We're not doing any goddamn thing. If we're gonna do what we used to do, use a pencil and a ruler. And there's nothing management could do because the people at the lower end don't understand it, and you can't train them because they would need to spend 5 years in university to understand what McKinsey just explained to them, right? So what I'm saying is, we're so divided now that each job, once you remove the free market, all these people, the millions of people that trade with each other, they can't function. They can't function anymore. It's effed up. You understand? For example, there's a 1958 essay called I Pencil. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Oh, that's a good one. In fact, I suggest you people go to YouTube, type in Milton Friedman and I Pencil. Okay, he did it in 2 minutes. The guy who wrote that essay in 1958 was a little longer. It's basically Milton Friedman is explaining that the pencil requires thousands and thousands of people to make. Okay, the wood, the graphite, everything, and basically no human being could really, one person could make a pencil. You need thousands of people. What we now know is called the what do they call those? What do they call those? You know what I'm saying? The supply chain. Okay, supply chain. The supply chain involves literally hundreds of thousands of people to make one pencil or a computer, which is even more, right? So when you have one government making a decree on a simple law or huge tax like UBI or wage and price controls, you're effing that up. You're screwing that up. You have a very, very, very complex system of trading and negotiation between thousands of people just to make a pencil. And then all of a sudden you have a government coming in and say, no, now from now on, all pencil must cost 1 penny each. That'll screw that whole thing up. You follow?
Look, I mean, so you of course are talking about the productive parts of the economy, and I mean, I totally get that. There's a certain amount of jobs that are needed in order to.
That's why I like GMI.
To fulfill
GMI
but
cuts back on government.
But what's very important, I mean, it's like this whole automation story has been sort of glossed into the background when in fact, I mean, automation of course is essential to capitalist society, right? Which is that you have better and better productivity that is created through technology. Now, what's important, however, is that you don't need to have as many people working in the production.
That's a fallacy, Larry. That's a total fallacy.
That's absolutely, that is the trend. That is the historical trend
that's not a trend. That's not a trend. What are you talking about? That's not a trend.
Right now, I mean, okay, so
even
the amount of service sector jobs that we can create is, of course, unlimited.
Even Krugman said. Even Krugman, okay, he's your kind of economist. He's a lefty, okay. Even Krugman says, and what was his first name? What's Krugman's first name?
He was a trade economist, right?
No, the Krugman, the leftist economist, who won the Nobel Prize.
Yeah, he talked about trade issues. I don't know what's your point with Krugman. Go ahead.
Yeah, even he said, okay, now the technology changes is less than in the past. Okay, the technological changes to the economy is less. It's all hype. This AI automation is all hype. Okay, there were bigger changes in the past from technology than now, and technology creates more jobs because it reduces the price so much, the demand goes up a lot. And because of that, we consume so much. Human consumption could never end. Of course, you can bring in the climate change, and that could be an argument, but I don't want to bring that in now because I would throw in nuclear energy and then it just goes into a different direction. But the bottom line is that human consumption never ends. Okay, there's no such thing as too much. Okay, if you hold climate change constant. If I could give you 12 robots that do everything for you, you would say, how much? If I say each robot costs $2,000, you buy all 12 of them. You're a cook, a butler, you buy them all. A maid, right? You buy them all. At $150,000, I don't think you will, So, in other words, you would consume an army of robots if you could afford it. And that's what technology does. Lowers the price of everything. So because of that, the demand is so great. You need more people to design the robots, to run the robots, okay, to do everything.
Well, I mean, let's be realistic here. I mean, we have 8% of our all of our occupations is in the STEM field, right? So, which means
Yeah.
that we actually only
That's
need
the
very
problem. That's
small
the problem. We need more
scientific elite.
people. Yeah, we need more people in that
No,
field. Yeah.
we need a small scientific elite. I mean, that's really the thing that matters. I mean, it's like how many roboticists and engineers do you need to hire in order to, produce, enough food and enough clothing and enough, computers, enough commodities of the things that we buy and use every day. So, yeah, I don't think it's that many. I mean, that's really.
No. This is
I mean,
endless. No, no.
that's really where the issue is. That where we are saying that
No.
we
Your
could
view
be
is
giving
about
80% of our people, the ability to, figure out what they want to do with the life in the form of a leisure society,
okay,
and
let's go back.
because of the Puritan
Let's go back to
obsession,
that. Yeah,
we
what
don't
the
allow
people
people
want.
to do that.
Yeah, let's go back to what the people. I'm a Nietzsche fan. You know that, right?
Oh, I like Nietzsche too. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a Nietzsche fan. And what does Nietzsche say? Nietzsche doesn't say, well, the guy's goal, if he's afraid to go to school, he's afraid to study, then he should just be a barista all his life. No, he didn't say that. He says, if you feel jealous, if you feel inadequate looking at someone who's so successful and you think you want to be like him, then you should do something about it. Okay? If that's what makes you happy, you should do something about it. And what UBI does is saying, well, why don't you think about that tomorrow? We'll give you 12,000 or 15,000. You go keep pouring coffee, and you end up making 30,000.
Okay, so look at this. I mean, so like we know that how human progress is occurring, right? I mean, we know that there's a bunch of incredibly talented and smart people. I mean, you can name names. Bezos, Musk, Zuckerberg. I mean, there's a bunch of people who are, bringing the country and civilization forward. And what I like to say is that, but in order to get even one Einstein, okay, you have to subsidize millions of people who are, to use your example, the barista crowd, right? Who are basically the ones who take it easy and don't want to work too hard, etc. I mean, and it's perfectly fine, though. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
The
I mean, we've
problem
got the
is
power
that you got to
right there.
force them to. You got to force them to. For
No,
example,
but you want to create the Einsteins. You want to nurture the Einsteins.
No.
I think the only way how you can nurture the Einsteins is if you support everybody through the UBI policy.
Opposite.
Opposite. Let's take the example of the coronavirus vaccine, right? We know that there's over 90 trials going on all around the world. Now, if you're saying, oh, I only want to support the people, the scientists who I think are the most promising, so you dump a lot of money, all your money into the Harvard lab, the MIT lab, or whatever, one or two labs. And the reality is that even if you know that you have the smartest people at the Harvard lab, you're still not going to be able to be guaranteed to have the coronavirus vaccine. What you have to do is you have to dump your money into hundreds of labs. Yeah, and then the labs, most of these labs are not going to produce shit. We know that, right? So, but you need to have one lab which creates that innovation, which is going to cure the coronavirus, right?
I got it, but you're saying, but UBI won't do that. UBI will reduce the number of talent that would do useful things.
That's
because you're rewarding laziness. You're rewarding procrastination. You're rewarding a lack of ambition.
among a subgroup of people. I mean, of course. I mean, that's going to be the price you're going to pay. But look at this. We already.
Let me tell you about the far left. The far left, they spoil people. They totally spoil people. And that's why you have all these people who are drug addicts, homeless people out there. Because they basically tell them, you can do whatever you want. I will support you.
Whatever you want, exactly.
I'll give you an award just for showing up.
That's right. In order to support the Einsteins. You're supporting the Einsteins as well, of course. I mean, that's what you're doing. I mean,
this is what you do. For example, if the guy's income is below 15,000, okay, This poor man is not making a living. He needs help. Okay, and I definitely think he should get some money from the government to top it up to 15 or whatever. Okay, but if he's making 21,000 pouring coffee, and what he really wants to do is to be a dancer or a plumber, then he should quit. Why are you giving him another 12,000 to keep doing his bullshit job pouring coffee? Right? You're spoiling him. You're enabling his laziness and his lack of ambition and his lack of courage. That's what UPI is doing. Look at all these countries with all these equality. Like they have no talent. Look at the United States. We're the best talent in everything. It's technology, entertainment, the United States, right? So all I'm saying is, look, if this person can make the most basic income, we can't just let them starve, right? We can't just let them, So we have to help the poorest. And if this kid wants to go to college for STEM or plumbing or electrical, whatever, electrician, then maybe a little bit more than 15,000, a little bit more. You don't want too much, right? So that's what I think is the beauty of GMI. The people in the middle have to make a decision. Do I want to be pouring coffee my whole life, or do I want it to go to school, take the money from the government, and go to school? Force them one or the other. Okay. Your idea is to make all these people, to make the whole of the United States look like Greece. That's what they do in Greece. Everybody in Greece basically is in the tourist industry. Okay, that's all they do. They either export olives or they tourism, and they're basically walking around entertaining the tourists, Americans or the Europeans. And basically this population just sits there all day long, right? Is that good? I don't know. I mean, in Greece back then, 26 years old, you can get a life pension. Isn't that nice?
Yeah, but I mean, you see, so the way how you frame this is about, oh well, we're fostering, we're encouraging laziness. I mean, first of all, I don't see it this way. I think we are encouraging among a subset of the population that that doesn't want to have the yoke of an employer and wants to have freedom for a few years in order to try out his entrepreneurial talent. They're going to be able to do so
with
a UPI.
You don't need that's
going to
UPI. You get that with GMI.
That's going to be possible better.
Larry, you get that with GMI.
Larry. And then the other.
Let me just say one thing. You get what you just said with GMI. What GMI forces people to do is make a decision. Either you have to quit this dead-end job and leave this dead-end town, or you don't. The problem with UBI is it's all money. You can do whatever you want. You can be a bum, or you can be a barista. No, it doesn't work that way. You want to be a barista, you get paid 20,000. That's it. That's all you get. Okay, and if you wanted to be a dentist, or if you want to be a dental assistant, then the government will pay you 17,000 for as long as you want. Okay, you go to school, you come out, and you start earning what my brother pays now. Oh my God, my brother started paying now. Before the COVID-19, he paid his dental assistant 60,000, 50 to 60. That's a lot of money.
Okay, so with regard to education credentials, I mean, look, I mean, I'm conflicted obviously because I work in that industry. So I know that your policy is directly helpful to my industry and my job. Yeah. But I mean, if I look at it from as an independent, Homo sapiens, so to speak, I would still be opposed to it because I think people should pursue an education if that's what they if that's what suits their interests and talents. I mean,
yeah, but you're spoiling them. That's why.
But but you have people who don't necessarily want to do that. I mean, they want to, maybe work a simple job and then they, want to sort of enjoy their life and not waste their time with scrummy professors. So I mean, I understand that sentiment as well, right? I mean, I don't come from an academic household, so I know that learning and just Confucian education ethics is not deeply ingrained in every person, and from that perspective, I mean, I would say, look, we should stop the pretense, okay? The pretense about the Puritan work ethic that you're going to have to, work hard in order to earn your keep. And I say we got to stop that bullshit, man. Like, we are
No,
already a
that's
rich
this
society.
again. Leftists.
We are not starting from a
Enable,
Venezuela. Look, your argument is always we are down to
that's
Greece, we're
hippie.
down
That's
to
a hippie
Venezuela, we're
mentality.
down to North Korea, and I like to say that no, we are taking over, from the U.S. economy, which is the richest economy in the world. And I know that, of course, we didn't become rich because
Because
of
of being
communism.
bums,
We
right?
became rich. Yeah, we became rich because of
For hard
capitalism,
work.
because of the
Yeah, from hard
capitalist.
work.
Yeah, because of the capitalist economic system. But
Yeah.
what I'm saying is, we take the what we have created in the capitalist economy,
And you
and
want
we
to ruin
allow
it.
and we allow people to pursue their own interests, their own self-directed interests, which
Sure,
is
they could.
which is what the wealth
Look, under
of a
GMI, they
society
could. Under
guarantees.
GMI, look, listen. Under GMI, they could pursue anything they want. First, quit their job. Instantly, they're making no money. The government will give them 15,000. Then, if they want to be a bum all their life, sure, we'll pay it.
Yeah, what's
And
wrong with that?
as long as they don't work, we'll top up your income to 15,000. And if they want to go to school, we'll give you 18,000. What's wrong with that? It's the same thing as you're asking. The problem with UBI is that it's really a way of finding, reviving dying socialism. Okay, and it's a horrible way to do it. You're destroying the economy like they
No,
did.
you are creating.
Greece.
Look, you are creating this disincentive right there, man. Because so the more income I am making, right, under your scheme, it's going to take away the benefit that was
Why?
paid to me previously. And
No, there's less tax under GMI. There's less tax. Under GMI, there's far less tax. Your scheme would double the budget, $3 trillion.
It's going to be taxed away as soon as you're going to earn more labor income.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
that's the way how the GMI system
but
works.
still, UBI add $3 trillion to the budget. Okay, that's crazy.
I know. So okay. So again, with the upfront cost, I mean, I'm not going to disagree with you here. I mean, it's going to be a sizable economic.
So you're going to tax the hell out of people. So it completely disincentive. Like I said, you want to know what UBI looks like.
I mean,
we are Greece.
No, I mean that's not the case. I mean, we are taking the most productive economy in the world, and we are simply giving a leg up to more people. And I don't think
sure, GMI would do everything you asked for. GMI would do everything you asked for, and it would, more important to me than doing what you asked for, is that it would give people a sense of security. They know that if something goes wrong with their life, right, they get fired or something, the government will always come in and would top up the income to 15,000 a year. Okay, what's wrong with that?
Well, yeah, what's very important, and I think you addressed a very important point, which is what Eric Weinstein would call the "fuck you" money, right? Which is basically the ability for you, right, to escape an oppressive situation, right? An oppressive employer. I mean, if you don't like that employer, you're able to sort of step back, regroup, like maybe look for a job, training for a year or something, and then you'll be able to find something else to do, right? And we sort of agree that under the current economic framework, we're not really giving people that option. And in fact, I mean, there's a lot of
the current
Republican
system has a problem. I agree. And the problem is that the UBI people is scaring away politicians away from GMI because UBI is so crazy. And whenever you mention guaranteed income, they think it's like universal basic income, right? And I showed you before on Facebook, these newspapers, they're confusing the two. They said Nancy Pelosi advocated a UBI. No, she was thinking. She's saying we will consider guaranteed minimum income. That's what she said in those words. These three words. She said minimum guaranteed income, which is a little bit of a change, tiny change. She said minimum guaranteed income. Okay, and instead, some newspapers, especially the right-wing ones, saying, "Oh, Nancy Pelosi they even mentioned Yang. Nancy Pelosi is agreeing with Yang. The Democratic Party wants universal basic income. So everyone who reads that will say, "Oh my God, they're going to double my taxes."
Okay, well,
and you know, UBI will never happen, but it's going to be great for pundits like you and I arguing about it for the next 50 years. It's the biggest, it's a bonanza in books and online media and everything. But I mean, the truth is, GMI will unite both sides of the political spectrum.
The only point I would be giving you is that GMI is better than the status quo. I think I'll concede that.
Yeah, the status quo isn't really that.
But you see, the issue is as follows, right? So you're going to have to design a cutoff, right? And let's say the cutoff is the 20th percentile of the income distribution, right? And so what you're saying is that, okay, so I'm going to give the bottom 20% of our adult able-bodied population. I'm gonna give them the sort of the economic benefits, the welfare benefits.
A top up, not necessarily. It's a top up. It tops up to a certain amount.
I mean, so it doesn't matter what we call this, but it's some kind of benefit.
It shouldn't go by percentage. It should go by what they need as a human being. I mean, you can. Yeah, a man who makes $9,000 a year needs help.
So one thing I would agree with is that, I mean, we can sort of address the worst kind of poverty with that, but you see, the unfairness comes from the fact that, what if I'm at the 21st percentile or at the 22nd percentile of the income distribution, so I'm just slightly above that cutoff. I mean, I'm not really well off. I mean, I'm still very poor. But already under the Steve Wong scheme, I'm cut off from it. So
yeah, sure, great. And let me tell you what. You know why that's great. That man who's making $15,001, he gets nothing. Okay, so he's gonna make a decision and say, look, I'm flipping burgers, and what I really want to do is to be a plumber. Okay, so he has to make a decision. Either he could just quit his dead-end job and collect free money for as long as he wants, or he can go to school and the government will pay him more than $15,000. Let's assume you follow Steve Wong's advice and pay him $18,000 for being a student. Okay, he takes those 4 years or 3 years to become a plumber. And when he's done, he's going to pay a lot more tax because he's going to be making $60,000 and eventually $100,000, even more, in maybe in 5 years, right? That's great for society. Why not that? Than having a bunch of guys who think they're artists, who think they're geniuses, who think they're bongo drum players, when they're really just a bunch of lazy bums, really, right?
You hurl it as an insult. I mean. And for me, in my ears, it sounds like a compliment. I mean, somebody, the lazy bum is a creative artist. I mean, in my.
That's why I call you Satan. That's why I call you the Antichrist. Because what you're doing is you're spoiling them. You're enabling people. You're encouraging. You're encouraging laziness. You're encouraging procrastination. Okay?
No, I mean,
you're encouraging dependency. That's another one. You're encouraging dependency.
I'm not encouraging dependency. I mean, that's
of course you are.
No, that's the whole point of the UBI, that I'm being given a certain amount of money, and then I get to freely, as a Homo sapiens, get to choose, how I can spend my day, as opposed to playing around with the wealth of democracy.
I keep telling you that. GMI offers
like, I have to make sure that I'm in the 90th percentile of the income distribution, right? Instead of the 21st, so I can get the government handout.
Yeah, GMI offers you that. You want to be a bongo drum player? Go to the park and play the bongo drum. Okay, quit your job, drive your income below $15,000, the minimum basic amount. okay, then the government will give you 15,000, top it up to that, and play the damn drums all day, play chess, do whatever you want, okay? Or you can take that money and go to school, right? So this to me is common sense. You want people in society to be useful to one another. You don't want the society to depend on other people who has to work extra hard to put food on your table. That's what you're doing. You're making the problem with UBI is that it makes slaves of people. The good thing about UBI is that
that's already the present reality. I mean, you know how the essential meat poultry workers.
It's better.
It's not you and I who's doing it.
Yeah. UBI is better than socialism because socialism completely controls you, takes away all your freedoms, right? What UBI does is it uses taxation to make slaves of people. Okay, and I gave you a number of examples. Let's assume we gotta get going soon, but let's assume that we're looking at this COVID-19 thing. Okay, same thing. The guy who's a farmer who works at a supermarket, okay, he gets paid. He doesn't get free money. Okay, he has to pay tax to pay the poor guy who has to sit at home to do nothing. So what's happening? He is now the slave of someone who has to sit at home who is doing nothing. Okay, it's the same with UBI, because to pay $3 trillion of UBI, some poor slobs has to work extra more, grow extra more apples, catch extra more fish, that is taken away from him to give to some guy in whole or in part who's not working.
Okay, I'll make you one concession, which is that if the consequence of a UBI is universal laziness, and I guess what I mean by that is
not
literally that.
Laziness,
no, I mean no. Let me finish the sentence here. So let's assume that the whole output declines. Then obviously you would then there's less stuff that's circulating in the economy. And
less.
Then you would have to cut the UBI amount. People would be
but let me tell you the
they'd
problem.
have to work more.
This is a Nietzsche thing. Listen to me. This is a Nietzsche thing. Like I told you before, it's amazing, and I got relatives who's still investing in McDonald's and Starbucks. I mean, it's only about $1 million a pop, right? And they're investing, and no matter how much they invest, there's always customers. And you can basically turn the United States of America and Canada into a gigantic coffee and McDonald's place. A nation full of mediocre businesses and mediocre people. That's what scares me. I mean, people have an insatiable amount of need for coffee, okay? And if you have one in another corner, they will go there and buy it. The problem is that you end up with all these kids who could have been plumbers and engineers and computer people. Okay, instead of that, they're all pouring coffee, working at the library or the community center, all kinds of nonsense jobs, bird courses, as they say. Working at Walmart as a greeter. Geez, really, what kind of job is that? Really? Okay, so talk about bullshit. Okay, and because they're getting supplemented for this kind of not laziness, it's this procrastination and lack of ambition. Okay, this is a Nietzsche thing. It's a Nietzsche thing.
So the model that you develop of that economy, I mean, we know it cannot be true. I mean, look at this. We have an increasing percentage of a population that has a college diploma. I mean, we're talking upwards of 30% of the total population. If you look at the millennial Gen Z generation, we're talking about 1 in 2.
But what are they learning? Though? What are they learning? Like they're learning stuff you want them to learn.
College graduation rate. So I mean, we have
learning garbage
in our society.
They're learning garbage. They go to these liberal arts colleges. They're learning nonsense.
Right, but they really regardless. I mean, we're having the most educated population.
That's not. They're not really educated anymore.
Well, we have the most educated. I mean, and
we have a labor shortage.
The employers are not hiring these people. I mean, that's
Larry, you know there's a labor shortage. Before the COVID-19, there are 1 million more jobs than there are unemployed people, okay? And they're not hiring all these artsy-fartsy people. They're hiring plumbers, they're hiring computer people, right? There's a labor shortage.
Upskilling. This whole issue of upskilling, I think it's total nonsense.
No. You think human beings are capable of doing difficult things?
The STEM percentage is 8%, okay? STEM proportion, 8%.
Yeah,
okay?
So you think that 8% of our
we need not geniuses but technicians, right? So we need technicians, but those are about 8% of the society, right? Now, what you have to ask yourself is, what are we going to do with the 92%? And
But
what you're
even
saying
if you
is,
were,
oh,
even
it's
if
okay
you're
if they
right,
work in these
yeah,
managerial
even
bullshit
if you're
jobs,
right, why
and
are
I'm
we
saying that's not right.
subsidizing people who? Yeah, but even if you're right, why are we subsidizing people who are pouring coffee? Okay, if they want to pour coffee, do it. But I think a lot of people don't want to pour coffee. I think a lot of people
No,
want
I
to
think
be a dentist.
a lot of people want to. No, a lot of people want to have the freedom to decide what they want to do. I
Yeah,
mean,
and
for
GMI
some
offers
cases,
that.
so for some cases,
GMI,
in some cases, it's about pouring coffee. In some cases, it's about creating the new Apple product, and in some cases,
yeah.
it's about bonging the drums, And I'm
The
like,
problem
no matter
is
what you choose, I mean, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with any of
GMI
these choices.
GMI offers you everything you ask for without the cost and without the laziness and the procrastination incentive. Okay?
No, you have the
What?
progression. You have the laziness incentive because of the cutoff in the 21st percentile. So and
No,
anyway,
no,
so
no,
let's
no. If a man is only making $21,000, right, and if he's unhappy with that, he might want, and a lot of people do, and a lot of people are going to trade school. A lot of people are going to STEM school. He just say, look, this is not worth my time, right? And I'm going to go to school. And GMI offers them a much better package. It gives them money, and maybe they give them free college, right? That's great. And I think Confucius is right. Education is very important, and people have to be educated. And also, Confucius said, this is what Confucius said, okay? That people should consume less, they should work more. That makes common sense. It's common sense. He says if people consume less and work more, there will be more wealth in society.
look. I mean, I appreciate Confucian education, and obviously, I mean, look at me. I mean, I have like 5 college degrees now, so I mean,
Yeah,
I come from that camp, but.
yeah,
I,
but you
I,
like to spoil everybody.
I think we should price education for its own sake, right? Not in
I
order
know you keep
to
saying that.
not in order
It's
to
purely,
produce more commodities, so
but
we
that's
can
what
buy
you're
more
saying.
crap that
You
more
have no,
people need.
there's no logic to what you're saying. You're just dictating that. It's just a moralistic thing, like from Christians or something. It's nothing. There's no
But I
reason
mean,
to it.
you're
I like
moralizing on
Nietzsche,
consumerism. I mean, you
right?
cannot tell me that consumerism is the highest and best objective of being a human being. I don't think that consumerism
No,
is
Confucius.
the ultimate.
This is exactly what listen. This is exactly what Confucius said in translation in 1887 translation. Okay, just give me half a second. There is a great course also for the production of wealth. Let the producers be many and the consumers few. Let there be activity in the production and economy in
That's
the
already
expenditure.
happening.
Let me finish. Then the wealth will always be sufficient. He's 100% right. This man is a genius. Of course, it's not really him. It's thousands of years of scholar who's just roll it into a Confucius ball, right? Let me repeat the last sentence. Then the wealth will always be sufficient. This is the United States of America, and you want to turn it into Greece. You know what I'm saying? I gotta get going soon, Larry.
Okay, I'll let you have the last word on this
Okay, you
one.
have
I
the
mean,
last word. You have the last word.
I mean, look, so I mean, all I have to say on this is that I mean, of course, if you say, oh, Larry's a dictator of Venezuela, North Korea, and Greece, and whatever, and what would I do under those circumstances? Well, I mean, I would try to be as greedy motherfucker Protestant capitalist as you can be in order to to become as rich and I would probably hire Steve Wong as my finance minister to make sure that we draft a budget that will.
I think I might do a good job. I think I might do a good job.
Yeah, right. So okay, now here's the thing, but that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is Larry Liu taking over the United States economy, which is number one in the world. I mean, because we control the reserve currency. We have the best technology in the world. We've got Silicon Valley, we've got
And the
Wall Street.
freest market. The freest market.
Okay, now, so and under those circumstances, I would say that we've got to give people a leg up, and we're not doing a very good job of that.
GMI would do that.
And
GMI would give people a leg up, Larry.
and
Support GMI. Forget this UBI thing. Nobody's going to implement it. You're dreaming. You're living in imagination.
Has disincentives right at the cutoff. I mean, that's what. Okay, but anyway. So okay,
all you want to do is to become a middle class, privileged, yellow privilege who wants free money. That's all. You're just a middle class, well-educated kid, right, with good family support and yellow privilege, and you want money on top of that. Wouldn't that be nice? I want free money too. But
well,
for the society
look at
as a
this.
whole,
if
GMI is the good policy.
If I was a high earning professor, and of course, I mean that hasn't happened yet. I mean, I'm still the graduate student level, but if that were to happen, guess who's gonna pay for that freaking UBI? Okay, I mean, of course, the capitalist is gonna take the money overseas, right? So they're gonna hide it. So I mean, of course, the people who are gonna collect the high salaries, it's the doctors, it's the lawyers, and it's the professors. They're gonna be the ones who are gonna pay for everything, right? I mean, we know.
Let me tell you something. With GMI, they will raise your taxes maybe a couple of percent. With UBI, they'll double your damn taxes. I'm telling you. There's no way the rich are going to pay for it because they're already paying the highest bracket. So you cannot force the rich to pay 130%, okay? It ain't going to happen. With GMI,
the rich are
I guarantee
130%. Come on, don't shit me right now, man. It's like 35%.
Yeah, I guarantee you with Medicare for All and UBI, they have to tax the middle class. I already show you a ton of evidence.
Yeah,
there's no room to tax
the Medicare taxes. I mean, of course, would fall net on the middle class. But we already have a healthcare tax. Okay, the healthcare tax is a private healthcare system with expensive deductibles, co-payments, and premiums.
So let's assume you put those two together and you increase. Yeah, you put those two together, you increase the budget to $10 trillion. I'm telling you, the middle class will bleed like they do in the Nordic states in Canada. Your tax would be, instead of around 24% right now, the average family, your tax will be about 42 to 45%, okay? You double. Right now, a lot of Americans don't pay damn taxes, okay? And once you implement your thing, it'll be more than 40% because you have that UBI plus the M4A, right? You wouldn't have the UBI before M4A. So you're likely going to add a $6 trillion to that budget. You're not going to do it. I'm telling you. You people are living in fantasy.
When I tell people that marriage costs a lot of money, right? Because you have to take care of your spouse, and of course you're going to have children, and the children are expensive.
Yeah.
And I tell this to people, and guess what they're going to do? They're still going to get married. They're still going to have kids, right? So, I mean, it's like... But at the end of the day, I mean, if you say, well, the cost is high, well, none of the good stuff comes for free. Okay?
I think you should lobby for both. You should say, look, I believe in UBI, but, guaranteed minimum income also has its good points, and you should lobby for both, okay? Right now, UBI is eclipsing GMI, and GMI is clearly the better policy, okay?
It's
My God, Friedrich Hayek and Milton Friedman, they support it, right? And people, a lot of liberals, a lot of progressive people also support GMI. So this is something I think both sides could agree on, right? And right now, all you have to do is take what they've done in Ontario and Finland, and add a little bit of incentive for education in there. I think they should try it. Anyway, I really enjoyed being here. And I think one day we should do it again.
Yes, Steve, thank you very much for coming in. And we'll repeat this again, and we'll have a next big topip. I thank all
There'll be something else next time.
Yeah, that's going to be great. And I also thank all of my listeners, and hope to see you next time.